Hey there, money heroes. It's Stephanie, your host and fellow explorer on the Be Your Money Hero podcast. We're diving into the nitty-gritty of personal finance and having real conversations about how money, spirituality, psychology, and our life stories all dance together. This podcast is educational, but I'm not a therapist, and my guests and I cannot offer personalized advice through a podcast. My goal is to create a safe place for you to learn and get curious about yourself and expand the way you've thought about money. So if you're ready, let's dive in. Scarlett, aka the Biz Hippie, helps coaches master money and their own worth so that they can be fully supported by the work they love. Using a combination of tangible money management strategies and a variety of powerful coaching techniques, Scarlett helps her clients transform their mindset and relationship to money and strategically make their vision happen. Scarlett didn't always live life this way. At the age of 18, Scarlett had already begun her professional journey and was managing restaurants and pursuing a degree in business management, accounting, and finance. Her life was all business all the time, despite having horrible relationships both with money and people, struggling with depression, head-to-toe eczema, and frequent migraines. It took a cannabis-induced near-death experience to shake her to the core and start a slow crawl from rock bottom. Scarlett swung her pendulum from full business mode to total hippie, becoming a life coach, yoga instructor, and Reiki practitioner. It was when a coach friend of hers was struggling with money that she was inspired to bring together her experience, skills, and degree to support her. This was the genesis of Empowered Abundance, a program that helps coaches and business leaders transition into the next level of abundance with all the tools they need to make conscious and aligned decisions. Scarlett is a certified coach through the World Coach Institute and a level 2 enlifted coach. On a personal level, she's a total hippie, loves spending time barefoot outside, vibing with family in drum circles, and using plant medicine in the jungle. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here today.
So it sounds like you've had quite the journey to get you to where you are today. Do you mind sharing a little more about that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so much that I could go into here, but basically, looking back at the beginning of my journey, I was very disconnected from myself, and I had lived my whole life up until, my early adulthood, as living life for the sake of success and for the sake of what I thought I was supposed to be doing, who I thought I should be, and especially around making money, right? Like, I'm going to choose the career that's going to be the most successful and make me a lot of money, and focusing all my time and effort and energy in that direction. And so along the way, I totally had no idea who I was and what I enjoyed and what I wanted. And I discovered eventually that this was just not a way that I could continue living. And so a huge part of my journey has been breaking free from these ideas of having to be a certain way to be successful, making certain amounts of money equaling a certain level of success, and instead discovering, who am I? What do I want? What's important to me? And learning to discover myself, what I value, what I prioritize, and then living my life in alignment with that and finding and redefining success for me.
So will you go into the details of what that process looked like for you?
Yeah, the rediscovery process.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was certainly a long one, and part of it was starting to distinguish, what do I want based on, as opposed to previously, like what I should be doing, and starting to tell the difference between what are the things I'm saying yes to, or what are the things that I'm saying no to because I feel like I should, but I don't actually enjoy or I don't actually align with, and then what are the things that I want to do because it feels good, because I enjoy it, because it's something that aligns with me. And so learning to uncover, what do I want, and start to make choices and decisions in alignment with that, that was really one of the foundational steps. And then continuing to say yes to and choose what feels most in alignment for me over and over and over again, even when it was challenging, even when I felt like other people didn't agree or understand. And then continuing to stick with that and choose that helped me, one, really discover myself and who I am, and also allowed me to say yes to so many amazing opportunities that has brought me to where I am now.
What did you have like a particular process that you used, or when you look back, were there certain things that you did to really define what it was that was important to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Part of it was, like trial and error at first. It was just noticing what was already happening. In the processes that I do use, awareness is the first step that I always focus on, is bringing awareness to what is currently happening, what decisions I was currently making, my thoughts and my feelings that were present, bringing a lot of awareness there and noticing what was already present, and then starting to get clear on, okay, well, if I can imagine that anything is possible and I can have anything that I want, what is the vision that I want to create? Where is it that I want to go? So, yeah, the process is first awareness, then vision, getting really clear on that destination, and then alignment, aligning my actions and how I spend my time, my energy, and my money in alignment with that vision. And then the fourth step to that is action, continuously taking action in that direction of the vision and where I want to go. And I found that following those steps over and over again and going even deeper into deeper levels of awareness, deeper into even deeper levels of the vision and what's important to me, and then doing that over and over has really been a powerful step and process on this journey.
There's two times a year when I really focus and put some conscious effort into where I'm going next. So I think that a lot of us kind of revisit at the beginning of the year, right? We look at what our goals might be, what we want to accomplish for the new year, what's worked well, what hasn't. So I do that at the beginning of the year, but then also right around my birthday, which is coming up in the next couple of weeks. And so this has been a topic that has been very much on my mind lately because I'm feeling a shift within myself too. So it's been a long years worth, several years worth journey of rediscovering what it is that's actually important to me. Because so much like you, my level of success or my vision of success has been very rooted in the material aspect of things, how much money you make, what accomplishments you're able to make in a professional way. And it has a lot to do with the way that I was raised as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have been doing as we're coming up to my birthday and kind of the review of how this year has gone so far and where I want to kind of continue on this next trip around the sun is I've been looking a lot at my values. And one of them is authenticity. And so when it comes to money, what is most authentic for me when it comes to money? And I think that that is going to be very different for people. And I think that it sounds like you've had some experience on that as well, because you were really striving for the jobs and making a certain amount of money, and then you realized that wasn't what was authentic to you. And if we don't act in a way that is authentic, our joy suffers, and we're not able to find that fulfillment and the happiness and the bliss. Will you share a little bit about what the difference is now that you've shifted from that more material, other people's version of success, and what success looks like to you now?
That's a great question. And I totally agree. It is so important to really tap into that level of authenticity and what is truly in alignment and authentic to you. And exactly like you said, that fulfillment is super different. I mean, I come from a background of being an achiever. I like to get to finish lines and be successful and win, right? I'm very competitive growing up. And so it used to be that I was constantly running towards something. And I felt like no matter how hard I worked, how fast I ran, no matter what I did, no matter how much money I made, it was never enough. And it never felt like I was ever getting where I wanted to go. And if anything, the faster that I ran, the harder that I tried, the worse I felt. In fact, it really impacted me not only emotionally, but also physically as well. Like, I found myself in a place where I was so unfulfilled. I was depressed. I was suicidal. I felt like my life had no meaning, no purpose. I didn't even know what I was doing. I felt like a shell of a human being who just was this chameleon that would blend into any situation and be who I was supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be successful in each moment without being, and feeling really empty on the inside as a result of that. I was in some horrible relationships, in some horrible, toxic work environments, and my body was physically sick as well from just all of this stress and everything that I was ignoring about myself. I was literally covered head to toe in eczema because of the way that I was living and the way that I was stuck and feeling so trapped and helpless and feeling like a victim of circumstance in my own life. And all of that was because I was walking a path that was not authentic to me. It was all based off of should. And so now that I have chosen over and over again to find my own authentic path and do what is most authentic to me and choose what is important to me, now I get to feel fulfilled every day. Even if I haven't quite stepped into the full, complete vision, I can still live as if I am in that vision right now. I don't have to try and get anywhere. And as a result, I get to feel the joy, the fulfillment, the abundance that I desire in this present moment, no matter what is really happening around me. Even when there are ups and downs in life, even when there is like financial stress, I can still stay tapped into that possibility, that beauty, that magic, that joy of living this life because I'm living a life for me now.
I love that you touched on that too, because it's such a balance, because I think that we often feel like we will go through this process once and then we're going to have a clear vision of where we want to go and it's all going to be just unicorns and rainbows from there, right? But it's not. It's something that we continually have to revisit because things change and we grow and we evolve. And so the goals and visions that I had set, even for the beginning of this year, I've had some revelations, and one of them is that I have an addiction to busyness. This is something that's been revealed to me in the last couple of months. And I think that that comes from when I was growing up, we were always praised or valued based on what it was that we did. Just simply existing wasn't enough. There had to be certain things that you had to do to earn acceptance and love in that family system. And so I think that that is a lot of times where we can get stuck in that cycle of accomplishment and doing things, whether it's through our families or even just society, because society has been telling us this for quite a while too.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you really start to break away from that and lean into the authenticity when it was hard?
Yeah, and that's such a great question. And I think the first part of it comes back to developing that level of awareness of what are the patterns that are already present and how do we really develop a lot of awareness around that so that we can dismantle them. So, a lot of the work that I do is looking at the stories that define us and create our identity from our childhood, right? These patterns. And I have similar patterning as you as well with the busyness, with the straight A student, be good at school, be perfect, and having that energy and that same story translate into my present reality and what impact that is having on me. So, really developing a lot of clarity around what are these stories that are building and creating our identity, and how can we go into those stories and start to rewrite them? Because I have found that no matter what you do in this present moment, it can be really hard to change that pattern when it's so deeply ingrained until you go into those moments that those stories were planted and change them directly there. And that makes such a huge impact on changing these patterns because you're getting to the core of the issue. Another one of the things that I love to address with myself and also with my clients is looking at the different parts of ourselves, right? I have the belief that we are complex human beings. We have multiple parts of ourselves and they value different things, they prioritize prioritize different things. They need and want different things. And when we look at each of these parts as individuals, and we can step back in each moment and say, what is this part needing? Why is this part showing up here? How is this part trying to serve me? And then it gets us out of the mindset of, I need to remove my inner critic who's always self-sabotaging me, and I need to kill off this piece of me. And instead saying, how can I satisfy all of my needs in every single moment? That way I can bring all of me to the table and have 100% of me moving towards the same goal. So often when there is challenge coming up, what I do is I go deeper into what is creating this challenge. Is it an identity and a story and a pattern that I've been living through? Or is it a self that is here to try and support me and help me in some way that needs to be shifted slightly, whose needs need to be more satisfied so that I can keep moving forward and keep going in the direction that I want to go?
I think that you bring up a really good point, because that's work that I've done as well. And it's understanding that somebody, or, like that inner critic that we have, they're playing a role and they are trying to help you in some way. So even if it is doubt, if it is fear, if it is that inner critic, there is a role that they are playing within that. So for example, if you have an inner critic, what are they trying to keep you safe from? Are they trying to keep you safe from failing? Is the ego trying to say, hey, I need recognition? And so maybe that's a sign that you actually need to look inwards and give yourself recognition for the things that you have accomplished. Mm-hmm. And so there's things that, when those, even if they are perceived as negative, maybe it's the fear or whatever, ask, like you had said, what is it trying to tell me? What is it trying to protect me from? Because then it shifts the way that you look at it. And it takes you from a place of self-judgment to a place of self-love, and being able to help release some of those, like, okay, I hear you, fear. Thank you for trying to keep me safe, but I'm going to let this go now. I've got this.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you help your clients transform their mindset and their relationship to money? What's kind of that first step?
Yeah, and it really does start with some of these pieces that we've already been talking about. My whole program goes through those four phases that I outlined earlier: awareness, vision, alignment, and action. And awareness, that phase, is the longest phase. It takes up almost half of the length of time that I work with my clients, because I feel that that piece is so important. And so in the beginning, before we even actually start looking at your money in a strategic and tactical way, we go into your relationship with money and we dispel what I call scarcity seeds. The scarcity seeds are the stories, the selves, the thoughts and beliefs around your relationship with money. And we go really deep into these. We bring so much awareness around what are the current stories that are creating your life, what are the current selves that are driving your life, and bringing awareness to the fact that we even have selves and how we can use this information to change our lives, and what are the beliefs that around money, especially, that have been creating our lives as they currently are. So first we go into that, what I call internal relationship with money, and then we bring external awareness to our money. And this is where we start to build what I call a financial blueprint. Now, a blueprint is a money management tool that gives you so much awareness around how much money you have, where it's going, what you're doing with it, so that you can be intentional with it. And so after we've done all this internal work around your relationship with money, we build a blueprint so that you can have a really clear picture of what is already happening with your money. And then you can start to use your money intentionally to get to where you want to go. And that starts to tie into the vision, aligning with the vision, and taking action with that vision by being strategic with your money.
So what are the things that you are asking people to be aware of? Are there, like, maybe a couple of things that specifically people should look out for?
Yeah, I mean, we love to go deep into, what is happening with all of your money. I break it down into what are your basic expenses, like those bills, subscriptions, things like that that happen regularly. Even though they happen regularly, still getting it on paper and seeing clearly this is where this money is going gives you so much information. We get awareness around how much is coming in, where it is coming from, so the income, the expenses. We talk about intentional spending. That is kind of those extra things, the money that fluctuates throughout the month. It can include groceries, dining out, gas, if you have to buy food for pets, if you have any like shopping or entertainment, those intentional spending items, that's really where a lot of money can fluctuate and a lot of lack of awareness often lives. So bringing awareness into what is already happening. How often am I dining out? How much am I spending on groceries? How much am I spending on shopping each month? And then bringing awareness there. And then once you get really everything on paper and you say, this is exactly how many dollars I have coming in, this is exactly how much money I have going out and exactly where it's going, that's when you can start to shift it and manipulate it to feel into what is in alignment for you. You know, is it worth it for you to eat out less and prioritize grocery shopping because you want to eat healthier, and then you want to use that extra money that you're not spending on dining out to start to save for things and save for things intentionally or achieve other goals like paying off your credit card debt or fun things like traveling or saving for retirement. And so really getting a really clear picture in these buckets and what's happening can give you so much power and control over what you are doing with your money.
I love that because that's something that I talk to my clients about too a lot, because I use the examples that I've run in for myself. So one of the examples is before I was able to really establish healthy boundaries in my past relationship, we had gotten a car, and I knew that this car, I did not want this car. It drove me crazy. And every time I had to make that payment, I felt anger and resentment and irritation. And so looking back now, I understand that that was a flag that was telling me that these things were not in alignment with what was actually important to my value and my goals. Another example that I give is I love going out to eat. I love it. It's great. I have 3 kids and a whole bunch of dogs. We basically have a zoo. So if I can go somewhere and eat a hot meal and somebody can serve me, it's fantastic. So I feel really good about spending a certain amount of money each month going out to eat. However, if I spend more than that amount of money, I don't feel so good about it anymore. And I start to, because it's no longer in alignment with what's important to me, because while enjoying life and having those experiences is something that is important, it has to also fall into line with those other goals that I have set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. And I just want to touch on exactly what you just said is that, there's this idea that spending your money in certain ways is wrong or bad. It's like, oh, if I go out to eat, it's like bad that I did that. Or if I buy a coffee, it's bad that I did that. And I tell my clients all the time, I say, it is not up to me to decide what is right for you to spend your money on. Only you know what is best for you, what is in alignment for you. And in order to do that, you have to just make decisions about what is most important to you. And when you have a really clear picture of what's happening with your money and you know how much you have available, you get to very easily prioritize what is important. You can say, okay, I only have an extra $100. Is it more important to me to spend it on going out and having a fun day with my partner that I love? Or is it more important to me to put it towards my credit card debt and paying that off so I can take some of this pressure off my shoulders? And that answer can change depending on where you're at, but learning to really tap deeply into yourself and again, the beliefs, the selves, the stories that impact our decisions and get really clear on, okay, who's making this decision? What part of me is making this decision and why? And then continuing to choose what is the most important for me with where I'm at right now. And then removing the guilt from your spending and saying, I just made a decision that was most in alignment for me. Going out to eat is important to me and I'm going to choose that right now in this moment.
And one of the things that I think can trip people up is we as humans are emotional creatures. We are spiritual beings that are just living in this physical plane. And so if there is, if those emotions, if you have a tendency to justify things, perhaps, because I've seen people do that too, where they're like, my soul just needs this today, but then maybe they regret that decision tomorrow. One of those ways to kind of navigate through that is I'm a big advocate of paying yourself and paying it forward first. Because if you are taking care of those long-term priorities and you're kind of making that, once you've establish what your values are, where your priorities are, taking care of those priorities first. And then that way, if you have an extra coffee or whatever the case may be, that's something you've already taken care of, those long term important things, whether it's emergency savings or putting money towards investments or planning for the vacation that you want. Because a lot of times the future just seems so distant. It's hard for us to really emotionally invest the way that something that's staring us in the face right now is. And so, when we were planning for a big trip, we would put money aside in a separate savings, like a travel account. And we would put money in there that was specifically for travel because that was something that was important to us. But if there's extra money in the checking, we have a tendency to spend that. That's just the way that we are. It's working with the way that you are designed to, because I have a tendency to be a little over stringent. The money stories, I'm a vigilant. I can be a penny pincher. I can be a little stingy and clingy with my money. And so it's harder for me to spend on those experiences, whether it's a vacation or a concert or anything like that. And so for me, it has been helpful to just put that money into a designated experience fund. That way I don't feel like I'm taking away from my long-term self either. It's already designated to be spent in that way. And so it helps me take that guilt away.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree. And really what I'm hearing you speak about is commitment. You make these decisions for yourself and the things that you want, and you can choose, okay, I'm going to prioritize this. I'm going to prioritize putting money aside each month for this travel fund. And then it's committing to that decision, even when something might rise up in the present moment and desire your attention, and saying, okay, how can I continue to choose this first over other decisions and not take this money out? And instead and to me, I really see that as committing to yourself, which is a deeper level of self-love and prioritizing what is important. Yes, in the short term, but also in that long term as well, and finding the balance between those two things. And that's why having a blueprint and having a really clear picture of what is happening with your money is so valuable, because just like you said, it's easy to just see a bunch of money in your checking account and think like, I have so much, I can splurge right now and spend a lot of money on things. And then like 2 weeks later, you get into this space of, oh my gosh, I have no money. I'm feeling really stressed. I'm just not going to eat for 3 days until my next paycheck comes in. And it kind of puts us into this binge diet cycle because we're just looking at the bank account. But I think the bank account numbers on its own isn't accurate information. Whereas instead, when you have the big picture of a blueprint, you know what's happening for the whole month, you even have a clear picture of what's going to happen for the next several months, then yeah, I have a lot of cash right now, but then I got to pay rent and then I have to pay this, but then more cash is coming in. So this is the actual amount that I have extra available that I get to choose what to prioritize and then continue to commit to and stick to those priorities for the long term.
Do you have specific tools like budgeting apps or any other tools that you really like?
Yeah, so I have built this blueprint on Google Sheets is really the tool, and for me it's all encompassing. So I use this blueprint to manage my money. It's what I've been doing for the past 4 years, and then I teach my clients how to build their own, and then they use it for the rest of their lives. And so basically what it does is it gives you a clear picture of the 12-month view of your money. So how much income do I have coming in for this whole year? Where are my expenses over this whole year? What's my intentional spending? What's my intentional saving? What am I choosing? What am I prioritizing? And then there's also, I use a tool in the blueprint called an account forecaster that forecast, okay, what is my checking account going to look like over the next 3 months as these payments come in and out? And so just using a tool like this that gives you a really clear picture goes a really long way. And I have seen eliminates around 70% of the money stress that I see people facing, because most of that money stress comes from just not having awareness around what is actually happening with your money.
So, one of the things that I wanted to make sure to talk to you about too, in an area that you have a lot of expertise, is you work with coaches. And coaches usually do what they are doing because they want to help people. And so they have a very interesting relationship with money when it comes to the work around it. Would you mind talking a little bit about what you see in that arena?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is so great working with coaches. And that's one of the reasons why I love working with coaches and entrepreneurs, is because, first of all, it's this, we're a group of people who are really bravely choosing our own path. You know, it's kind of a newer thing to be a coach and to have that be your career. There's a lot of people who can look at that and be like, that's not a real job. And so it takes a certain level of bravery and commitment to yourself to choose this path that's against the grain of everyday average society. So that's what I love to do, is work with the bold and the brave and the unique. And again, exactly like you said, there is this commitment to serve and support others and transform the world. And so why I love working with coaches is because many of them have already done a ton of work on themselves. Especially mindset coaches is a group of people that I often work with. They already have so much self-awareness, but then money is really this next level of personal growth. That's the way that I look at it, is you can transform all areas of your life and still have challenges and conflicts around money. But changing your relationship with money is so vital because it bleeds into all areas of your life. And so working with coaches, I see them often torn between being overly abundant, feeling so like anything's possible. I'm so tapped into my vision. I'm self-coaching myself every day. I'm using all the tools. My mindset is perfect. Like, I got this. I know I got this. I'm 100% confident. And then at the same time, having this other side of them that's like, but seriously, how am I going to make ends meet? Do I just need to go get a 9 to 5 job? Like, I don't know why I took this risk. I don't know if I'm going to pull it off. I'm feeling super stressed. When's the money going to start coming in? And there's this often polarity between flip flopping between feeling super abundant and then feeling super, super scarce. And a lot of that shows up in your business's success, right? Because that level of scarcity and fear around money, that impacts how you show up in your business. It impacts your sales and it impacts your ability to make money. And so these big themes around money are exactly what I love to address in my work with coaches, especially because when you do use your money really intentionally, it becomes such a powerful tool to transform the world. Everybody has so much power with every single dollar that they spend. Anytime you spend your dollar in alignment, not only with you, but also the kind of world that you want to live in, you are impacting and influencing the world. And so, another reason why this work is so valuable is because as you choose what is most important to you, I believe that that has a huge ripple effect on our world as a whole. And as more and more people become even more intentional and aligned with their money, it's going to totally change this world that we're living in.
Do you have a specific example of how you've used that in your own life and something that shifted for you, perhaps from when you were more career focused and money driven to being more holistic?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many examples that I could use here. For one thing, I'll just go to simple, basic shopping. You know, it's very easy for us to go to the convenient location and buy things. You know, like, I'm going to go to Target or I'm going to go to Amazon and I'm going to buy this product. And so for me, a huge part of my own journey has been buying from companies that are in alignment with what I believe in and in alignment with my values. I'm huge into the environment, and so I love to buy as close to compostable, recyclable, zero impact items as possible. You know, everything small, from my toothbrushes or like bamboo toothbrushes to my floss is like compostable floss that comes in a glass one time, or like a glass reusable container, so I never throw anything away. And so choosing companies that for me aren't wasteful is in alignment with my values. But then we can go another layer deeper as well, like companies that are manufacturing from like child labor and abuse and things that are not in alignment with us. When we do our deeper research into who are we buying from, what companies are we buying from, that's when we can change it. And so for me, I really choose a lot of smaller companies. I love to shop at like thrift stores, things that have already been used before. And I typically limit my Amazon as much as possible. I like to buy locally, like local produce is a huge thing for me from a local organic farm, and just choosing to put my money into things that resonate with the things that are important to me every day.
Well, I relate to that quite a bit because I share a lot of those same values as well. And one of the things that has helped, and one of the things that I'm trying to teach my kids, is the cost that we are usually most focused on is the financial cost, right? The dollars and cents, how much money has to be exchanged. But that's not the only cost that goes into a product. So if you are buying something plastic from China, there's the financial cost, the amount of money that you're going to pay for that thing, but then there's the environmental cost. How much impact did it have on the environment to make it to you? And then how much impact is it going to have on the environment after you're done using it for the day, because it's probably not high quality. And there's the emotional cost too. I think that the emotional cost for things is something that we don't consider a whole lot. And that's something that I walk my clients through when it comes to their priorities is, when it comes to a debt, from a financial perspective, it makes the most sense to pay off your highest interest debt first. But you might owe some money to your mother-in-law that is giving you a lot of emotional distress. And she might not be charging you any interest, but it might free up more energy for you to pay that one off first. And so looking at the different costs associated with things helped me kind of pull away, because I do have a tendency to be very focused on the dollars and cents. And so it helps me kind of pull away from that mindset and look at things from a broader perspective.
Yeah, I love that. I love that that's something that you go into with your clients. And I totally agree. I love to look at it through the lens of it's a time, energy, and money exchange. Every single time we take an action in our life, it is because we are expending some form of time, energy, or money. Something is being exchanged there. And so when we come to our decisions about what is most important to us, it is important to consider the costs, not just the financially, but also the time and the energy as well. I just had a conversation with a client the other day on this exact topic, where she's like debating between getting some extra part-time work to support her business. And on the one hand, I said, okay, yeah, so this is a simple question of just weighing the costs and benefits and saying, is it more valuable for me and my emotions, my energy, to have a little bit of extra money coming in so that I can feel stable, even though I'll spend less time on my business? Will that time be better spent because I don't have to worry and stress about money as much? So my time is better quality spent in my business, versus is it more valuable to have 100% of your time going in towards your business, but then have that energy leak over the money stress? And it's like, either way, that's going to happen. It's just which is more important to you with where you're at right now, and recognizing the whole exchange that is happening between the time, the energy, and the money, right? Because it's not a one-way street. Even when you spend your money on something, you're getting something in return. And often it's a benefit to your time and energy at the cost of money. But it doesn't have to be that way. It can be the other way around. You can spend more time to save more money. And it depends on the situation and what's most in alignment for you.
Yeah, and it's a hard question to answer sometimes, and sometimes you just have to try it and see if
Yeah.
it works or not.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the common challenges that you see people face when they're working to align their financial habits with their values? Do you see that there are certain tripping hazards along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of them is just the habit is a big part of it. I have also seen that, developing the habit of being aware of what is happening with your money is really the biggest roadblock to overcome. And then once you overcome that and you do develop a habit of getting clear with your money, it starts to make being intentional with your money and spending your money in alignment with your values so much easier, because then you can actually see what is happening. And so some of the biggest hurdles that I really see is avoidance to tracking your money and being aware of what is happening with your money. And there's a variety of reasons why this happens. A lot of it is stories and beliefs of it being complicated, of it being really confusing. I'm not good at math. It's really challenging, and I don't want to spend my time on it. I just want it to be easy. And so, as we develop a method that's really simple and easy to follow, and you commit to doing it and commit to practicing it, first of all, what happens is it eases the money stress right away, but then it makes it a lot easier to keep going and keep choosing what is important to you because you're looking at it. So even if you do have periods of time where you're not spending in alignment with your values, you can feel it. And then looking at the numbers of what happened, you can also see it and say, oh, well, I went outside my, desired dining out spending for the month and I feel guilty about that. And it's like, okay, how can you forgive yourself? Recognize that that happened, maybe even recognize why that happened, go into, well, what's the pattern that's unfolding here? I have lots of clients say to me, oh, well, I go out to eat because it's a coping mechanism and I was feeling bad and I just wanted something to cheer me up. And so it's, how do you address that? What is happening under the surface, the pattern that's creating you, causing you to do the same thing over and over again. And then let go of the past and move forward and try again for a future month, and continuing to be future focused while also addressing what is presently happening, so that you can keep getting closer and closer to choosing what is most important to you.
Well, and I found that it's very helpful to have someone like a coach or a trusted friend, someone who knows you, because they can call you out on things
Mm.
because you may be repeating a pattern and maybe your focus is kind of over here in left field, but it's actually stemming from something else. But because you're so deep in the woods, you're not able to see it, where somebody else looking at the situation is able to see it very clearly. So I think that it's really valuable to have someone else that you can talk through with these things. Plus, a lot of us are just verbal processors. I know that when I'm going through whatever, it's really helpful to be able to just talk to somebody about it, because even as I'm hearing myself say these things or thinking through it enough to actually put it into words, it helps with that awareness aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Having that other person there, I have found to be incredibly valuable. I'm also a verbal. I need to get the conversation outside of me to really see it clearly. And then also, especially when you're working with things as complex as your money and the deep, complex internal selves, right? The parts of ourselves, the stories, our mindset, all the different things we're thinking, the different options that we're stressing over, it's really helpful to just get it all out and have someone else there that's objective, that can say, okay, well, let's take this big complex problem and really break it down to see it clearly and say, okay, it's just these two simple decisions that you need to make and that you need to choose what's important to you. So making these really complex issues seem very simple, and having someone else there to do that is going to save so much time and energy when it can feel nearly impossible when you're in the muck of it and don't even know where to go.
For sure. And I was curious, I know that you have some experience with Reiki. Do you use any of that energy work in your coaching?
Well, it's something that I'm using all the time and practicing all the time. So it isn't something that I emphasize a lot in my coaching, but we do bring in more of my, hippie yoga Reiki techniques into, especially when we get into like the visioning and tapping into your vision. And then at the beginning of the program, tapping into why are you doing this? Why are you committed? What's important to you? That's where we bring in some deeper meditations, tapping into the energy as well. Some of those, things under the surface more than just the strategic, actionable, tangible blueprinting steps.
So a lot of times we get started on this path. We've identified what's important to us. We've been working towards it and we feel pretty good. But especially when you're an entrepreneur or when you're in that healing work and you do have that polarity that you had talked about earlier and you slip into those valleys, what do you find is a good way to kind of pull you out of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the first things that I recommend is really allowing yourself to deeply experience whatever you are presently experiencing. Sometimes when we hit a valley, our default thought is like, how do I get out of this as quick as possible? Like, I can't be here. And we try to bypass whatever emotions are present. And so, giving yourself an opportunity to be really present with what is here, allow yourself to feel and have the experience. Especially as an entrepreneur, I know I go through valleys where I'm in fear, I'm in stress, I'm wondering, was this whole thing a mistake? Am I going to have to give up? Is this not going to work? Like, what's even the point? It's never going to happen. And instead of just saying, okay, well, I got to shift my mindset to the positive right away, yes, positive mindset's valuable, but give myself the opportunity to really feel that and say, yeah, what does it feel like to be afraid? What does it feel like to not know if things are going to work out? And allow myself to fully experience those emotions so that they can move through. And then once they move through, it's going to allow that shift back into, well, what can I do? What do I need to do to move forward, instead of getting out of that like victim, I'm stuck, I can't do anything, and shifting into how can I make this happen, and realigning the energy, realigning your mindset, realigning and retapping into your beliefs, like your empowered and abundant beliefs, tapping into your abundant identity and getting re-strategic with your money and making strategic decisions again. So I would say first is allow the valley to happen in a really deep way, and then go into how can I move forward with the mindset, the emotions, and then also the financial strategy as well.
Perfect. So I am curious if you could just make this news broadcast to the entire world. What would that news broadcast say?
Oh, that is such a good question. It would really be that, sometimes in our current life here on planet Earth, it can feel like we have no power and no control either over our own lives or what the heck is happening in the world around us. But the truth is, and the reality is, that you actually have so much power and control over your life and the impact that you have on the world. And that power comes from how you choose to spend your time, your energy, and your money. These are things that you're always spending, always choosing to act upon every single day. And if you're not in a place where you want to be right now, where you feel powerless, all you have to do is learn to harness these powers. You already have the power right now. It's just being in control of it, learning to wield it. And when you do that, you can create whatever life you want to live. And as a result, we can also change the world as well.
I think that that's a really important message, especially for this year when there's just so much noise. And sometimes we have to cut ourselves off from whether it's a situation or a person or whatever the case may be, that's really pulling a lot of our energy and draining us. Sometimes we have to reevaluate where those energy resources are going. So maybe it's, not being on social media as much for the next few months and really honing in on where you are able to add value, where your joy comes from, the areas where you can make a difference, because it will help you cut off that energy drain and really focus your energy into something that's productive and that you have control over. Because while we need to stay informed of what's going on in the world around us, if there's nothing that we can actually do to change the situation, then we need to not put as much of our energy into those scenarios. And that's something that can be a bit of a challenge to do at points, but I think that that's really good advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, there's so many things in life that we're not in control of, but you are always in control of how you choose to spend your time, your energy, and your money, even if it doesn't feel that way. And the more that you can make those conscious decisions and intentional actions, it will reflect in your life, because that is what creates your life every single day, is the actions that you're taking, what you're choosing, what you're deciding. And if you want to shift this result and this reality, it's by getting in control of what you can be in control of.
For sure. As we move into some closing questions, first of all, where can people find you?
Absolutely. So I am on Instagram at the biz hippie. That is absolutely where you can find me and reach out to me. And also, I love to offer to my podcast guests, my podcast people listening to the episodes that I'm on, I love to offer a free abundance activation session. That's where we go deep into your current money situation and developing a strategy to get into a financial situation that is in alignment with you. So if anybody is interested in a free abundance activation session, they can sign up for that on my website, thebizhippie.com/activate. And I would love to connect deeper with you there.
Perfect. And I'll make sure that we have those links in the show notes below too. And what does abundance mean to you, Scarlett?
Abundance to me means being present with what is here. That's one component of it. And when you are fully in this present moment, you can see that you have access to everything. Abundance is also living your vision right now, no matter how much money you have, how much time, how much energy you have. I believe that it's possible to live our vision in this present moment. That's what I'm constantly doing and teaching my clients to do as well. So, abundance is really living in alignment with our visions, with our best lives, and allowing ourselves to fully be in that vision and create that vision right now with where we're at.
And what's one of the biggest aha moments you've ever had?
I have ever had. Wow. Well, one of them early on was recognizing that I was already living. There was like a point in time where I was like waiting for my life to start. I was just like going with the flow of doing things and working and in school and saying, okay, at some point, life is going to start happening and I'm going to feel good. And then I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, life is happening right now. It's happening right now. And me waiting for life is just pushing life aside, when instead I could decide to start living it, and I could choose to start living it right now. And it's 100% up to me to do that.
I love that. How do you practice being present? Do you have certain rituals or routines that you do?
So breathing is a big part of it. Just learning to pause and breathe throughout the day and have slower, deeper breath. I'm also a yogi, so I practice yoga, and having that time to slow down mentally and physically and tap into the breath is really valuable. But one of my favorite things, because, I'm a busy mind person, I do spend a lot of time thinking. But one of my favorite practices is I love taking a walk in the morning. So I wake up, it's one of the first things that I do, and I go on a walk. And during that walk, I really cultivate a lot of gratitude and a lot of abundance. And I wake up and I say all the things that I'm grateful for. I look at everything that is currently here and present in my life. I tap into that level of abundance. And then I can also spend time focusing on, what do I want to create? What am I moving towards? What am I excited about? And so, really having that time to be completely away from technology and just be super present with where I'm at and what I have, that's really some of the most valuable time for me.
What circumstances make you feel most connected to source or God or the universe, whatever you might call that?
Mm-hmm. So I love to see small moments of magic and find those moments of magic as often as possible. And for me, what a big way that that looks like is how can I find evidence that I am living my vision right now? I mean, that's one component. And then also just small serendipitous things that happen that are also really cool and fun. But I believe it's possible to live our vision now. And sometimes I have these aha moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, here it is, it's my vision right here in front of me, something so small and simple. Like I had a room in my house that was just cluttered and wasn't really being used, and I cleared it out and made it my yoga space. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I have my own yoga space. That was something in my vision that I didn't have before. I didn't have to move to another house in order to make that happen. It was right here all along. I just had to make it happen. So stepping into that vision. And then another piece is connection with other people, having conversations with others, getting supported on my own journey and supporting others as well. That absolutely helps me feel so tapped in, is because we're all on this journey together. It's not a solo sport. It takes a team to get to where we're going. And so having that connection, that community and family, it absolutely taps me in as well.
Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and your knowledge with our audience today. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome to answer all your questions and share in this passion that we're both have ventured onto, and yeah, to pass back and forth a lot of wisdom between the two of us.
As we wrap up this episode of Be Your Money Hero, remember that your financial journey is a path of self-discovery. If you have questions that you would like answered on the show, please submit them to info@beyourmoneyhero.com. If today's conversation resonated with you, share your thoughts and insights with our growing community. Subscribe for more empowering discussions. And always remember, you have the power to be your money hero. Until next time, keep growing, money heroes.